Male voice. Male voice. Valley voice.
Okay, titingnan natin po ang time check natin sa gabing ito. Okay, 55 minutos pasado po. Pasado po alas 6, no? Okay, ay 30 po ng Mayo, katapusan ngayon, no? 2024. Okay, gabi po ng Huwebes. So, bukas Friday naman, no? Okay. So, akala ko hindi ako makaprogram ngayon, no? Okay, kanina umaga. Grabe, no? Okay, ano bang nakain ko nung diyan ako sa KCC Mall? Okay, sa halos sinuka ko lahat po ang excuse me sa mga kumakain, no? Okay, sinuka ko lahat po ang laman ng tiyan ko kaninang umaga, no? Hindi ako makabangon. Okay, pinagpawisan ako, nahihilo ako, ewan ko kung ano nangyari, no? So, mag-recover, bago lang naka-recover, no? Ng katawan ko. Okay, itong hapon na talaga. After Salatul Maghrib. Kaya samantala ko ay magprograma mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, sobra. Ayan. Hindi mo po recover, no? Nahilo pa ako. Pero kailangan kasi ang serbisyo publiko tinig ng mamamayan, no? Okay, dito tayo sa consolidated news natin. Magandang gabi sa inyo. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Okay, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, no? Akala kasi ng tao pag mga dito na ko sa microphone, okay, wala akong naramdaman mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, marami akong naramdaman. Sa edad ko na ito, okay, maraming naramdaman, no? Boses na lang ang pag-asa, mga minamahal natin magtiwala sa programa, no? Okay, sa consolidated news natin dito po sa platform ng ADLSN TV News Online Corporation, sa programa Halo-Halo Special Opinion Balita at iba pa, kasama po serbisyo publiko tinig ng mamamayan at saka ugnayan sa mamamayan, no? Akala ng tao ay 100% ay okay na okay po ang katawan natin, no? Hindi nila alam, okay, marami na po tinatago ang inyong abang likod, no? Pero dahil sa pagmamahal po sa public service, okay, hindi natin kaya iwanan mga suki, no? Habang kaya pa tumayo, okay, habang ang boses ay okay pa, ipagpatuloy po natin ang public service sa kapwa mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Huwag natin iwanan. Si Tatay Digong nga ay kawawa na pagmaglakad, pero ganun pa rin. Okay, halos parehas na kami ni Tatay Digong maglakad mga suki, no? Pero hindi pa rin ay sumuko. Okay, hindi pa rin susuko. Okay, sa public service mga suki, no? Ayan. Okay. Andyan po yung mga number natin. Okay, sa YouTube, andyan po number natin. Okay, pakihanap na lang. ADLSN TV News. Okay, dyan sa YouTube channel. Andyan po number natin, no? Okay, sa Gcash, sa Maya, at saka itong sa PayPal. Yung mga foreign donors, gusto mag-support sa atin, pwede po sa PayPal mga suki, no? Ayan, PayPal accounts. Andiyan na po nakasulat. Okay, basahin na lang natin, no? Sa YouTube, okay, ang Gcash natin, usbon natin, sa Gcash, 0915-981-7696. Ulitin natin, Gcash yan, no? Okay, pwede kayo mag-tulong. Okay, mag-donate, mag-suporta. Diyan po, ulitin natin. 0915-981-7696. Okay, magkasulat lang. Sa Maya naman, 0943-137-5 1486 na. Kasi hindi ko na talaga kaya mag-cover sa labas. Sa totoo lang mga suki, mga kababayan na. Okay, baka matumba ko dyan sa labas and then pagtawanan. Okay, kawawa po yung abang lingkod niyo mga suki na. Hindi ko na talaga kaya inamin ko mag-cover po sa labas na. Hanggang studio na lang. Hanggang makaya ko po magprograma mga suki na. Okay, ganun din sa YouTube. ADLSN, hindi, sa Facebook. Okay, ADLSN TV News Online Corporation ang channel natin na. Okay. Pwede rin. Nandiyan din nakasulat po ng number sinabi ko kanina. Okay, sa GCash 0915-981-7696 at saka ito nga Maya. Okay, 0943-137-1486 at saka PayPal accounts. Okay, ABS, no? ABS Damahan, tapos may S lang, live at gmail.com, no? Ulitin ko. Okay, ang PayPal accounts ng kumpanya ito, ABS Damahan, ABS Damahan, with S lang sa dulo. Kasi ang pag-ari ng kumpanya ito, Damahans, live at gmail.com. Papasok na po pag marunong kayo sa PayPal, no? Kung meron kayo PayPal accounts, kahit saan kayo sa daigdig, pasok na yan. Sa mga local, ay pwede na yung Maya, pwede ng GCash po mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Ayan, tulong lang natin. Bago nga, nakabili lang ako ng mga gadget, parang halaga po ng kotse, yung second hand. Ayan, para lang ma-improve ang sa inyo ito dito sa akin para sa inyo. Ayan, sa tulong po pinadaan po sa mga donations, contribution po mga suki. Legit kasi itong studio natin, no? Legit, legal ba? Okay, may juridical personality, pati sa City Hall ng Zamboanga ay meron po mga suki, no? Sa Security Exchange Commission meron po. Okay, sa lahat na ba na-comply na lahat? Ayan, pati resibo meron na. Ayan, pero wala pang isyuan ng resibo, no? Ayan, pag-issue ng resibo kung magbayad. Ayan po mga suki, mga kababayan na. Okay, ang unahin ko, anong update po sa BAPA? Okay, sa Tuburan Municipal, sa Tuburan, no? Municipality ba? Doon na hiniheld. Okay, wala tayong makuha na balita, no? Okay, Bapa. Okay, kaibigan natin, si Otto Salim Kutan. Okay, saan ka na ngayon? Uwi ka na ba sa Maasim, Sarangani Province, o dito ka pa sa Zamboanga? Wala ko dito pa bayan sa Zamboanga, mamahinga mga suki. Ayan, so nabigyan natin ng pagkataon. Okay, pag-organize nila ng BAPA. Okay, Bangsamoro Party. Okay, sa starting pa lang. Okay, sa pag-organize na. Sinabi niya kahapon nung makita kami dyan sa restaurant. Okay, sa susunod po ang assembly nila. Okay, sa Lanao del Sur, mga suki, no? So sa lahat ng grupo po ng BAPA, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, no? Welcome kayo rito. Okay, sa programa natin, no? Kung meron kayong mga press release, okay, gusto niyo maihatid sa yung mga supporter nyo, welcome. Okay, natin Bangsamoro sa Justice Party, welcome. SIAP, welcome. Okay, Bangsamoro itong Grand Coalition, welcome. Okay, Salam, welcome. Al-Ittihad, welcome. Okay, dependent itong news natin mga sukita. Wala kayong problema po sa pag-release, okay, ng mga boses nyo. Importante kasi boses na. Okay, sa pagkampanya mga sukita. Okay, itong mga plugging nyo, political plugging, iparinig natin. Boses lang mga suki, mga kababayan, na. Ayan. Welcome kayo. Basta ipasok lang nyo sa GCash o kaya may pay maya ang talent fee po ni Abdur Jaman Damahan as Abs Damahan, no? Ayan. Pasok lang yan. Okay. Kabilis mo ang ayupot, okay, pag transact, pag meron ka ng e-payment methods, mga suki, mga kababayan, na wala na kayong problema. Pambili din natin ng mga pag-improve din natin ng okay, ng studio, o kaya yung mga natira, ipamigay natin sa kapwa, mga suki, na okay, as public service, kung may natira. Itong kumpanya natin, wala na. Stable ito, mga suki, no? Wala nang problema itong kumpanya natin. Kompleto na. Okay, pati lahat-lahat na kompleto po. Mga resibo, meron na. Okay, income, meron na. Okay, kasi may mga paninda online. Wala na kayong problema. Pati investment, may investment na itong kumpanya ito, mga suki, no? Okay, wala na kayong problema. May passive income, may investment na income, may physical store, okay, online pa. Wala na kayong problema po, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, kompleto na. Ayan. Ang ano lang ito mag-expand, mga suki, kung kaya pa ng katawan, no? Okay, kung hindi ko na kaya, yung salinlahi, yun na lang magpatuloy, mga suki, no? Kanila na. Okay, ibigay ko na sa kanila lahat, mga suki, no? Kung sinong pupulot ito, ang generation po ni Abdur Jaman Damahan, madali na para sa kanila. Okay, nagawa ko ng pundasyon, ang malaking vapor. Okay, pag negosyo, may mga malaking vapor. Okay, yung karga na lang ang kailangan po ilagay doon sa vapor na ito, no? Ang vapor po ng Minded Global Food Lines Corporation, naka-ready na. Pwede na po kargahan po ng okay, paninda. Okay, RTW pwede. Pagkain pwede, ma-process. Okay, mag-import pwede. Itong Minded Global Food Lines Corporation, no? Okay, wala ka na kayo problema. Handang-handa po itong kumpanya. Okay. Okay, magpalaki. Kung hindi na po kaya ng itong okay, matandang kalabaw. Okay, itong si Abdur Jaman Damahan, mga suki, matandang kalabaw na. Okay, hirap na hirap po maglakad. Okay, itong inyong abang lingkod, no? Ayan. So, sige lang. Pero may pupulot yan sigurado. Yung kasunod po sa board po ng corporation, yun po ang pupulot niyan. Okay. Yan ang pupulot. Sigurado siya ang pupulot, mga suki, no? Yung kasunod sa board. Okay. Sige. Ayan. Yung vice president ba? Kasi ngayon ay nahawakan ko pa. Pero ano na lang, parang titular na lang. President and CEO, Abdur Jaman Damahan, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Pwede mo ipagyabang yun, no? Okay. Kasi nasa listahan po ng Security Exchange Commission ang kumpanya ito. Okay. Ay talagang tunay na corporation, mga suki, no? Kaya pa lahat. Sige. Ang special ay malaking sa lain sa kasalukuyan at politika ng mga komunitaryo at magsalita ang programa ito para sa lahat. Walang pilipinan, walang pinakamilihan, at walang pinapalitan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay pagdustos sa makahanginan at trabaho lamang. Okay, hindi lang nila Manny Villar ay group of company marunong maggagawa ng kumpanya, no? Nila Dennis Soy, Abdur Jaman Damahan, marunong din po ay magawa ng corporation, mga suki ito. Okay, hindi po peke, hindi pandoloko. Ayan po, panghanap buhay talaga. Kaya po ni Abdur Jaman Damahan, pero maliit lang po, mga suki ito. Hindi katulad nila Manny Villar, multi-billionaire. Billionaire na sila, mga suki, no? Malay mo, yung kasunod ko, kung marunong magnegosyo dito sa Minded Global Food Lines, kahit milyonaryo, pwede naman, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Kaya, pwede. Hindi mo masigurado po ang destiny ng tao, mga sukida. Okay, nagumpisa lang ako, nag-start lang ako. Pero ang magpalago nito ay itong mga kasunod, mga generation ko na po, mga sukida. Anak ko, apo ko, kasi walang expire itong corporation, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Infinite. Kahit pa sino angkan ko, pag wala na ako, sila na mag-sunod-sunod na. Depende na sa kanila mag-organize. Wala po katapusan ito, mga suki, ito. Ganun po katindi. Ayan. Sige.
Ang hubungan ng special ay malaki sa may sumunod sa salapian at pinakapanihan. Politika, komentary at salita ang programa ilipas sa lahat. Walang titilinan, walang pinakampihan, at walang pinakapanihan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay pagdusad sa makahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Monster voice.
Okay. Anong susunod parinig natin now? Para makarelax lang. Okay, para hindi gadgad ang kuan ko, ang boses ko, no? Kasi hindi pa fully naka-recover. Nadali lang. Okay, saan na tayo pupunta, mga sukida? Okay, saan ang anak mo? Okay, may anak ako pusa na bago, no? 4. Oh, mayaman sa pusa po si Abdul Jaman Damahan, no? Okay, 4 sila. Ayun. Apat, mga suki, ang bagong anak ng pusa, no? Okay, tingnan po natin, post po ni Cathy Apelacio, kaibigan Cathy Apelacio. Okay, all eyes on President Bongbong Marcos Jr. historic address in Asia Top Defense Forum. Ayan po, mga sukida. Anong balita ito? Okay. Dalawang news ang balita ito. Unahin ko itong sa Singapore, no? Okay, galing po kay Cathy Apelacio, PIA, okay, Jensen, no? Okay, Jensen. Okay, katulad ng title ito, all eyes on okay, President Bongbong Marcos Jr. historic address in Asia Top Defense Forum. All eyes of key defense stakeholders around the world would be on President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Friday night when he delivered a significant message for the 21st edition of the International Institute for Strategic Studies, ISS, Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, no? Okay, the first Philippine President, kaunahan, no? To deliver a keynote message for Asia's premier defense forum. The chief executive is expected to make the historic address at 8 p.m. before a global audience. This year edition of the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue is going to be participated by more than 550 delegates from the defense and security establishment of more than 40 nations around the world. Okay. Founded in 1958, dito ako sila pinanganak, no? 1958 ang pinanganak. So, kasing ito ko itong IISS, no? Founded in 1958, okay, IISS is the leading global authority on geopolitics and strategy, producing analysis and exerting influence on matters of war, power, and rule for governments, the private sector, and the expert community worldwide. Maintaining offices in Bahrain, Berlin, London, Singapore, and Washington, D.C., IISS is widely known around the world for its authoritative, research influential, publication, and product. So, parang mga lobbies o consultant office na. More on research itong IIS. Our previous keynote speaker have included Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Japanese Prime Minister, Prime Minister Kishida Fumio, Kishida Fumio, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. President Marcos vowed to articulate in his message the legal geopolitical position of the Philippines, of the West Philippine Sea WPS, as he cited the importance of the waterway to global trade and economy. In a media interview in Brunei Darussalam prior to departing for Singapore, the President said his keynote address to the defense meeting on Friday is highly important, saying the invitation itself is highly significant. The fact that they asked the Philippine President to come and speak on that very subject is significant in the sense that it is a recognition that there are challenges that are facing the Philippines, specifically, President Marcos told reporter. The defense gathering is putting together a defense minister, military leaders, and a senior defense official, as well as business leaders and security experts from across the Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, and beyond to discuss a critical security challenges mga suki, no? Okay, anong PND? Okay, Philippine News Department, Katia Palacio, no? So, meron pa isang news si Katia Palacio. Okay, tungkol naman na sa Brunei. Mamaya balikan po natin yung news pinost po ni Katia Palacio, no? PIA Jensen. Okay, good evening Harlem Perolino, no? Jude Harlem Perolino. Ayan. Okay, mabagal na. Okay, Kati, magbasa ng news, no? Okay, so okay lang. Ayan. Sige po. Okay, sandali lang. Pag-itignan natin dito, no? Hindi ko na makita ang cursor. Okay. Grabe. Sige.
Ang Department ng Special Opinion ay malaki sa may subang kasawakian at pinakapaniwan. Pagkika, pagkakong makakomentaryo at salita ang programa ito'y para sa lahat. Walang kailangan, walang kinakampihan, at walang kinapaniwan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay pag-service sa makakaminan at trabaho lamang.
Female voice, male voice, Molly voice, monster voice. Female voice.
Okay, mahalaga yung address ni kaunanahon po ng Presidente ng Pilipinas, no? Okay, 22 minutos pasado na po alas 7 ang check natin. Okay, sundan po natin itong susunod na balita ni Kati, no? Kati Apelacio, PIA Jensen. Okay. Okay. Ayan po. So, ito pa pangalawang balita ni Katia Palacio. Okay, nilagdaan ang dalawang kasunduan para sa mas malakas na kooperasyon ng Pilipinas at Brunei sa agrikultura at ekonomiya sa Philippine Business Forum. Okay, na pinangunahan po ni Pangulong Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. sa ikalawang araw ng kanyang Brunei working visit, na. Okay, pinagatunan naman niya ng Pangulo natin si Marcos Jr. pansin ang mas maasahang renewable energy, no? So, agrikultura at renewable energy. Industriya, okay, para sa mga Pilipino, sa kanyang meeting kasama ng Bruneian energy sector leaders, no? Kanina ba yung si Ernie Masidan, no? Naalala ko yung Brunei Beauty, no? Mga issue noon. Brunei Beauty. Mabilis ako makarecord, no? Okay, Brunei Beauty. Okay, ni Manong Ernie Maceda, no? Senator Ernie Maceda. Okay, wala. Nakaano na yung natabunan na po ng okay, ng palapa. Okay, ng nyug. Okay, matapos matagumpay. Okay, na pagbisita, okay, nagtungo si President Bongbong Marcos Jr. at kanyang delegasyon sa bansang Singapore, no? Para sa isang working visit. So, yan ang balita po ni Madam Cathy Palacio, okay, ng General Santos City, mga suki, no? Ayan. So, lalabas kami, Mi? Palabas natin. Okay. Sige, labas ka. Sige, Mi. Balik ka lang, ha? Okay, balik ka lang. Ragaman ako. So, yan po ang alaga natin, 4 na bagong miming mga suki, no? Anak ng pusa. Ayan. So, tapos na Cathy Palacio ang yung balita, no? Okay, mag-break muna.
Ang Government Station live sa naisipon sa salapian at nakapanyan. Pagkika, pagkino, makakomentaryo at magsalita ang programa ilipas sa walang tinitrinan, walang tinakampihan at walang tinapaminan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay pag-usas sa makahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, si Cathy Palacio lagi po magpakain sa amin, no? Diyan sa General Santos, sa SM. Okay, lagi po treat ng pagkain po si Cathy Palacio, no? Yun po ang hindi ko makalimutan. At saka yung panahon ni Tatay Digong, okay, close contact kami every po mag-coverage mga suki, no? Paragi siya mag-advise sa akin. Okay, itong si Cathy Palacio, no? Ayan. Sige. Balikan po natin ibang balita, no? Okay, pakinggan po natin itong Biden advised red lines not to cross Rafah. Okay, US gives a clean sheet to Israel for Rafah bombing, no? Okay, hindi talaga makinig itong tao. Ito si Benjamin Netanyahu, no? Okay, pero ganun naman kasi maraming rocket po pinapalipad naman ng okay. Okay, pinapalipad po ito mga Hamas resistant from dyan sa area na yan, no? Okay, pakinggan natin. Para magkaroon ng ceasefire, no? Ayan po ba, Suki. Biden, red line not cross Rafah, no? Okay. Let's hear. Okay. Let's hear. Okay. Ito magandang Indiana ba ito? Okay, anchor po dyan po sa dito sa US ba ito o sa India? Pakinggan natin, no? Maganda ito.
Hello, namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. To begin with the war in Gaza, it has triggered a new trend on social media. A photo which says, "All eyes on Rafah." And it has divided the internet. We'll tell you why. Also getting you a special report on Israel's high-tech weapons that it has deployed against Hamas. Meanwhile, Arab states are flocking to China for a summit as Xi Jinping tries to broker peace in West Asia. Why have they chosen him? And can he deliver?
Okay, magandang ligawan, no? Kaligawan ito, magandang babae eh. Pero ano nang gagawin? Patingin-tingin lang? Okay, patingin-tingin na lang? Okay. Wala ka, patingin-tingin lang. Okay. Randy ba mapatingin-tingin lang, no? Okay, dyan sa basilan. Okay, wala nang magawa? Pwede patingin-tingin na lang. Sige.
In the other war, European powers have made a major shift. They're telling Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory. In South Africa, a crucial election that could decide the fate of the ANC, the party that has ruled the country for the past 30 years. In the Korean Peninsula, a trashy war as Pyongyang is accused of sending poop-filled balloons towards Seoul. In Georgia, the president's veto is overruled to pass the controversial Foreign Agents Bill. In Pakistan, a rare admission, Nawaz Sharif says the failure of the Lahore Declaration was their fault, not India's. In Bangladesh, Cyclone Rimal unleashes destruction. And are modified mosquitoes the way to contain malaria, or are they an invitation to new problems? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Defense chiefs of the US and China to hold rare talks in Singapore. The two officials will meet at the Shangri-La Dialogue this weekend. It will be their first substantive face-to-face talks in 18 months. Recently, tensions have been rising between Washington and Beijing over Taiwan and the South China Sea. Temperatures in India's national capital soar to a record high. Mercury touches 52.3 degrees Celsius in Delhi as it records its hottest day. Authorities have warned of water shortages amid the heat wave. Light rains today brought brief respite to the city. The UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to debate opposition leader Keir Starmer. The two leaders will go head-to-head next Tuesday. It will be the first televised debate of the election campaign. Starmer is tipped to replace Sunak as Prime Minister in the 4th July general election. Workers at Samsung Electronics to go on strike for the first time. Around 20% of the workforce at the South Korean tech giant will strike for one day next month. Samsung Electronics is one of the world's largest smartphone makers. The strike could also disrupt global semiconductor supply chains. And the European Union announces the creation of an AI office. It will comprise tech experts, lawyers and economists who will regulate artificial intelligence under a new law. Europe's groundbreaking AI Act will come into force in June.
Of this strike on Sunday, I have no policy changes to speak to.
It's a rallying call, it's a slogan, and it's a political reality, all of it rolled into one. Social media has been flooded with a picture. Let me pull it up for you. It shows a massive refugee camp in the desert. Look at how the tents have been arranged. It reads, "All eyes on Rafah." And if you're wondering, yes, this image was generated by artificial intelligence. It was not clicked in Rafah. But it is going viral. This picture has been shared millions of times by movie stars, by athletes, and by politicians. Look at some of the prominent names. Pop star Dua Lipa, model Bella Hadid, cricketer Travis Head, and a long list of Bollywood stars like Alia Bhatt, Varun Dhawan and Kareena Kapoor. Now this trend raises a couple of questions. 1. Where did it come from? 2. How did it spread? And 3. Why now? The slogan itself came from the WHO, the World Health Organization. One of their officials made this comment in February. He was speaking after Israel ordered Rafah's evacuation. He said, "All eyes are on Rafah." But how did the image spread? It's not clear who made this picture, but rights groups picked it up, like Save the Children, Oxfam, and Justice in Palestine. All of them shared this picture on social media. Then celebrities picked it up, or maybe their PR teams did. And that's how it blew up. Right now, it's almost everywhere. The picture was shared more than 37 million times by Wednesday morning. It's among the first uses of AI in activism, which brings us to the final question: why now? Because of what happened on Sunday. Israel bombed a refugee camp in Rafah. They killed around 45 Palestinian civilians, all of them inside tents. Now, most countries have criticized Israel's attack. The European Union is actually discussing sanctions on Israel. But guess who is not moved? The United States of America.
Can you explain how the strike in Rafah does not cross the lines that the president has said? We still don't believe that a major ground operation in Rafah is warranted. We still don't want to see the Israelis, as we say, smash into Rafah with large units over large pieces of territory. We still believe that, and we haven't seen that at this point.
So bombing a refugee camp is not a red line. Then what is? Apparently a full-scale operation. Honestly, we understand the sentiment. We're talking about the United States here. A country that has bombed 30 other countries, 30 countries. A country whose wars have killed 400,000 civilians. So clearly a refugee camp is nothing for them. But where does that leave accountability? Who will investigate this attack? Israel themselves. Their military is probing Sunday's bombing. You can guess what they will find. Maybe an accuracy issue or a problem with the camp structure. But the world may not buy it. United Nations agencies have already questioned Israel's excuses. They don't think this was a mishap. They think it was deliberate. Same with eyewitnesses. They say the refugee camps were housing wounded children.
We've heard this called a tragic mishap, a mistake. I guess the question is, what then to call the ferocious attacks that have killed thousands and thousands of children? How do we describe the actions that have pushed an entire population to starvation?
I heard a strong sound and found smoke rising from the tent. I went into the tent and found the woman was bleeding and the children were bleeding. All the children that were in the tent were wounded. Not one of them came out in one piece.
Will this be a turning point? The point where the world says no more. It certainly looks like it. Sunday's strike has re-energized the protests. We've seen demonstrations across the world in Western cities and Arab capitals and on social media. Will this translate into political action? That depends on world leaders. The UN Security Council will discuss a new resolution. It was proposed by Algeria. It calls for a truce in Gaza. The question is, will the UNSC members support it? All eyes are on the US now. They have blocked multiple resolutions in the past. Only one has been allowed to pass. A Ramzan ceasefire call in the month of March. Back then the US abstained from voting, so it passed. Now we'll have to wait and see what they do this time. Abstain, support or veto. Of course, the final decision is up to Israel. They've already made their position clear. We do not care about the UNSC. So resolution or not, the attack.
Okay, gusto ko kayahin itong ginagawa ng babae ito, no? Agad niyang news niya, cover halos lahat po. Okay, yung mga tinatawag na geopolitics, no? Yung concise na news niya, tapos karoon ang ginagawa niya, no? Kunti lang ang reporter niya. Okay. Ang galing concept lang used, no? Okay. Sino kaya marunong yung mga Pilipino? Okay, maggaya ng katulad itong ginagawa niya, no? Hindi ba magastos? Cover lahat po ang issue. Okay, sa buong daigdig. Okay, yun lang. Maikli lang, concise lang po ang balita niya, mga sukira. Pero maintindihan mo. Napakaganda ng concept ng news niya, no? Ayan. Kaya gusto ko ito asawahin sana. Ayan. Sige.
Will continue. Israeli tanks have already reached the center of Rafah. Many of the residents have started fleeing. Some to refugee camps on the outskirts, others to Khan Yunus, which is a city in the north of Rafah. A city north of Rafah, Khan Yunus. So Netanyahu's plan is pretty clear. He knows that the US will not support an all-out assault, so he's bleeding Rafah. He's using airstrikes to drive people out, and the civilian casualties, as Netanyahu said, a tragic mistake. but not tragic enough to make him stop the war.
Pero kung marami magbigay sa Gcash at saka Maya at saka PayPal, kaya-kaya ko ito gawin mga suki doon. Yung type ng pag-news niya, kaya-kaya ito. Okay, kailangan magandang mga equipment lang mga suki doon. Okay. Hindi, yung mga digital. Okay, yung kunting pindot mo na lang, yung mga switcher mo ay kunting pindot mo lang, makuha na kaagad, no? Kaya gawin ito. Kasi graduate tayo ng router. Nakapag-aral tayo sa routers, no? Sa digital news. Yun na nga lang, wala lang resources. Ayan. Sige.
So America will keep supporting Israel, which means a steady flow of weapons, more firepower, and possibly more bloodshed. Israel too is boosting its firepower. It is deploying new and modern weapons. Let me show you a sample. This is an Israeli armored personnel carrier, better known as Zelda. This video is old, but here's what's new. This weapon has been spotted near Rafah, and what makes it unique is the fact that it is unmanned. It works just like a self-driving car. You do not need a soldier to drive this carrier. Looks like Gaza is not just a battleground for Israel, it's also a place for them to experiment, to try out new and more sophisticated weapons. I'll show you another example. A smart gun system called Arbel. It's high-tech. This system is mounted on existing guns. It comes with an electronic trigger and sensors. And what does it do? It improves a soldier's shooting accuracy. It can track a target's movement. So once a target is locked and the soldier fires the first shot, this system takes over. It can then release multiple bullets at once with better precision. So with this system, you have a better chance of taking out the target. Now ask any soldier and they will tell you that a moving target is the most difficult to hit. It can evade bullets. So they end up firing multiple times. Also there are other factors like fatigue. If a soldier is too tired, it can affect their ability to shoot. It can affect their accuracy. Now with this system, they can be more accurate. And this is ideal for the war in Gaza, where Israeli soldiers are engaging in urban warfare. Going by one claim, soldiers using the Arbel system are 3 times more likely to hit the target. Israel has deployed all kinds of intelligent weapons. One of them is called the Blue 109 bomb. It's commonly known as the bunker buster bomb. Now this bomb is made in the US. It is not a lightweight weapon. The warhead on the bomb weighs more than 900 kilograms. And what is it used for? It can penetrate hardened structures without exploding. This bomb goes off only after it has made its way inside the structure. Now the Americans deployed these bombs in Afghanistan and now they're being used to destroy Gaza. Then we have something called the JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions. This is basically a guidance kit. In the past, most bombs were simply dropped from the sky. There was no guarantee of accuracy. That's why they were called dumb bombs. This guidance kit makes the same bombs smart. It converts a bomb into a precision-guided munition, which can hit targets with great accuracy. Does that mean that Israeli soldiers can never go wrong? Well, the answer is no. They will go wrong when they act on the wrong intelligence, and unfortunately that too has happened. For the mass bombing campaign in Gaza, Israel turned to artificial intelligence or AI. They relied on AI to hunt down targets. The system is called Lavender. It is basically a database, and here's how it works. Israeli forces fed a large amount of data about potential targets in Gaza. Then they asked Lavender, this AI system, to identify these suspects, to pinpoint members of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The AI tool gave them 37,000 names, 37,000 people, all of them were labeled as suspects. But the system got it wrong. In many cases, these so-called suspects turned out to be just civilians. Now, in an ideal scenario, this intelligence would have been vetted, preferably by a real intelligence officer. But when this war began, Israel removed a lot of the checks. If Lavender tagged someone as a target, they were treated as a target, they were bombed, no questions asked. Until the matter reached the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, where South Africa questioned Israel's actions. They said that Israel was committing a genocide using high-tech weapons.
It pretends that the civilians it ruthlessly kills through its 2,000-pound bombs, through its targeted airstrikes, through its artificial intelligence systems, through its executions, are human shields. This whitewashing of Israel's genocide misses the key and fundamental element, that of the massive and still mounting evidence of Israel's genocidal intent.
Last week, the ICJ ruled in South Africa's favor. The court did not declare Israel's war a genocide, but it asked Israel to stop the offensive in Rafah. Now, so far, Israel has refused to pay heed, and from the looks of it, the war will continue with deadlier weapons. What skills define a negotiator? Maybe patience, or problem solving, or adaptability. Which of these skills would you associate with China? Probably none. But tell that to Xi Jinping. His new mission is to become a negotiator to solve complicated conflicts. His latest focus is on Palestine. On Thursday, China will host an important forum, the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum. Now, most Arab countries will be attending this event. 4 of them will be represented by heads of state. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Bahrain's King Hamad, Tunisia's President Kais Saied, and the UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, all of them will be present in China. This is the 10th meeting of the forum. Normally the focus is on economic affairs like energy or investments, but this time the focus is on Palestine, on ending the war. The Egyptian leader El-Sisi was the first to arrive in Beijing. He's on a state visit to China, so Xi Jinping rolled out the red carpet. Take a look at this. What makes Xi so confident? The US has failed to mediate a ceasefire, the United Nations has failed, so why would China be successful? Now, Xi Jinping is probably betting on 2 factors. The first is track record. The second is leverage. China has been working hard on its negotiating skills. Last year, they pulled off a miracle. Beijing mediated a normalization deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia. These were 2 sworn enemies, and surprisingly, that deal still stands. Iran and Saudi Arabia. Then Xi Jinping focused on Ukraine and Russia. He sent a special peace envoy to Europe. He also proposed a peace plan. It is yet to gain traction on either side, but both Kiev and Moscow have welcomed it. And that's more than what any other party has managed so far. Then last month came another effort. China hosted the 2 factions of Palestine, Hamas, which rules Gaza, or used to rule Gaza, and the PA, or the Palestinian Authority, the group that controls the West Bank. Now, this was very significant because Hamas and the PA are rivals. They fought bitterly in the 2000s. Their rivalry divided and weakened the Palestinian movement. Yet China brought them together. Now, maybe all of this has boosted China's confidence. Maybe they think that they're ready for the mother of all conflicts, Israel-Palestine. Which brings us to the second factor, leverage. China has a huge economic presence in the Arab world. Just look at their bilateral trade. It was $36 billion in 2004, 36 billion. It now stands at $398 billion. All 22 Arab nations are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Beijing has 200 projects in these countries, so Thursday's summit is all about driving home this point, that China is reliable enough to mediate.
China has established comprehensive strategic partnerships with 14 Arab countries and the League of Arab States. China has facilitated the historic reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It has supported Syria's return to the League of Arab States and supported Arab countries in strengthening strategic autonomy and seeking strength through unity.
But effort does not equal success. For starters, China has very little influence over Israel. Their policy has largely been pro-Palestine, so Netanyahu will be wary. Secondly, China's leverage has a blind spot: weapons. Now, most Arab nations get weapons from the US or Russia. So what will Arab rulers prioritize? Weapons or Chinese mobile phones? I guess the answer is obvious. Equally obvious is China's intention. Their objective is not world peace or security. If that was the case, they wouldn't be bullying their neighbors or threatening Taiwan. Their intention is to weaken the US. Let me explain how. The US has long been West Asia's security guard. They armed Arab nations, they kept Iran in check, and they brokered Arab-Israel normalization. America did all of it. But now their grip is loosening. The US has not been able to stop Israel's war in Gaza, nor was it able to stop Iran's attack on Israel. So China senses an opportunity, a chance to make strategic inroads into West Asia. And this is a wake-up call for the world. We have specialized and seemingly unbiased agencies to settle conflicts like the United Nations. They're not perfect, but that's why we created them. Then why is the world going to China? To an undemocratic country that bullies its neighbors? Is there a lack of political will among other players, like India or Europe? The global community needs to address these questions because yes, war is bad, but a peace brokered by China could be equally bad.
आज हिंदुस्तान चांद पे चला गया है। G20 की मीटिंग्स वहां होती है। हमारे दौर में इंडिया के दो वज़ीर आज़म यहाँ पाकिस्तान तशरीफ लाए, अपने मुल्क को खुद आज इस नुक्ते पे हम लेके आए हैं। ये हिंदुस्तान ने हमारे खिलाफ नहीं किया।
That was Nawaz Sharif, former Prime Minister of Pakistan. It looks like he swallowed a truth pill because Sharif is dropping truth bombs every month. You just heard some of them. He praised India for landing on the moon, for hosting the G20 summit, and even said, "Do not blame India for Pakistan's troubles." Forget a pill. Looks like Sharif had the whole bottle. But his latest truth bomb is possibly the most important one. Nawaz Sharif has taken over as president of his party again. That's the PMLN, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. He's the party president now. Listen to what he said in his first speech.
वाजपेयी साहब लाहौर तशरीफ लाए, याद है या नहीं याद है? याददाश्त कमजोर है ना आपकी? तो तशरीफ लाए और हमसे आके यहाँ पे मुआहिदा किया। ये अलग बात है कि हमने मुआहिदे की खिलाफ वर्जी की, उसमें हमारा कसूर है।
Now first some context. In 1998, tensions were running high between India and Pakistan. Both countries had tested nuclear bombs, so the focus was on de-escalation. In 1999, India's then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee travelled to Lahore, no flights though. In a big gesture, Vajpayee took a bus. Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister of Pakistan then. Both leaders held bilateral talks. Their discussions led to a new agreement, the Lahore Declaration of 1999. It talked about multiple issues like resolving the Kashmir dispute, avoiding nuclear mishaps, containing terrorism, and focusing on dialogue. Simply put, things were looking up. But Pakistan's army chief had other plans. That's Pervez Musharraf. He was army chief then. He hatched a plan to infiltrate India. Pakistani soldiers were dressed up as Kashmiri militants. They went on to occupy positions in Kargil. It's a mountainous region in Ladakh. India took a while to realize what was happening, but when they did, fighting broke out. The Pakistani soldiers were eventually driven out. But the hopes of peace were dashed. And that is what Nawaz Sharif was talking about. He says Pakistan broke the Lahore Declaration, and he is right. Pakistan did break the deal. But Sharif is not taking responsibility for it. He is blaming Pervez Musharraf. He says he was not even aware of the plan. Now Musharraf, we know, died last year. Plus Pakistan's army does not really care about his legacy. His name is quite toxic in Pakistan at the moment. And yet, by blaming him, Nawaz Sharif is taking a big risk. Because effectively he is blaming the army for what happened in Kargil, for the defeat and the incursion. And it's not just Nawaz Sharif. His rival Imran Khan is doing the same. Look at one of his messages on social media. This is what Imran Khan said. Every Pakistani should study the Hamoud-ur-Rahman Commission report and get to know who was the true traitor, General Yahya Khan or Sheikh Mujibur-Rahman. Again, time for some context. Yahya Khan was a Pakistani dictator. He ruled from 1969 to 1971. Mujibur-Rahman was the founder of Bangladesh, the father of Sheikh Hasina. He led the campaign to split Bangladesh from Pakistan. So Mujibur-Rahman broke up Pakistan. Yahya Khan tried to stop him. He even unleashed a genocide in Bangladesh. Yet Imran Khan says, Mujibur is not the traitor, Yahya Khan is. What explains this position? Again, Yahya Khan is long dead, nobody is fighting for his tainted legacy, but still Imran Khan is taking a risk. He is already in jail for taking on the Pakistani army, yet he is criticizing them more. Imran Khan posted another message justifying his position. Let me quote again. This is what he said. The armed forces must stay within their constitutional bounds. Whenever they have chosen to go beyond and act against their own people, the country has paid a heavy price. So Nawaz Sharif is blaming the army. Imran Khan is also blaming the army, which makes you wonder what is happening in Pakistan. When their army is weaker than ever, we saw that during the recent general election, they tried to prop up the Sharifs, but the people rejected them. It took a lot of rigging to change the outcome. So maybe the politicians sense an opportunity. Imran Khan started this trend. He became popular by taking on the military elite in Pakistan. Maybe Nawaz Sharif is following his lead. But don't mistake this for a rebellion. The army still holds all the cards in Pakistan. Such statements may get some claps, but they may also land you in jail. Just ask Imran Khan. Now to the war in Ukraine. For the past few days, Zelensky has been traveling around Europe. The Ukrainian president, he's been traveling, he's visited 3 countries, Spain, Belgium and Portugal. As Russia intensifies its assault on Ukraine, Zelensky is trying to add to Ukraine's arsenal. But where will he deploy these weapons? French President Emmanuel Macron has some ideas. He says Ukraine could launch attacks deep inside Russia. Germany too has given the green light, and this is a very significant shift. Because until now, European powers had drawn a red line. Ukraine could not use Western weapons to strike inside Russia. They were meant only for defense, not offense. So what has changed now? And will this shift help Ukraine's prospects in the battlefield? Our next report explores.
It's rare for world leaders to turn to visual aids when they speak to the press. But yesterday, Emmanuel Macron had come prepared. He appeared before journalists with a map of Ukraine.
So how do we explain to the Ukrainians that we're going to have to protect these towns and basically everything we want around Kharkiv at the moment, if we tell them you're not allowed to reach the point where the missiles are fired from?
Macron was referring to the recent Russian attacks on Kharkiv. That's Ukraine's second largest city. Missiles dropped on defenseless Ukrainians. At least 18 people have died in the bombing. Macron wants to help Ukraine retaliate. He thinks there's only one option left.
We think that we should allow them to neutralize the military sites from which the missiles are fired.
He's talking about the Russian military bases where the missiles were launched from. This has been a long-standing demand from Kyiv, but the French president has defined clear red lines for Ukraine. Ukrainian forces can strike only military targets, like the Russian base in Belgorod. It's barely 12 kilometers away from Ukraine's border with Russia. The attack in Kharkiv was launched from there. In the past, Ukraine's forces have tried to neutralize the Russian military presence in Belgorod. But now they have the license to use French long-range missiles like the Scalp. They have a range of 155 kilometers and they can carry a 400-kilogram warhead. France has supplied an unknown number of Scalp missiles to Ukraine. Germany, on the other hand, has not given any such weapon to Kyiv. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz still remains wary, but he seems prepared to offer a compromise.
Ukraine has every possibility under international law for what it is doing. That has to be said explicitly. It was attacked and may defend itself.
Europe is reacting to recent events on the battlefield. It's trying to restore the balance. The delay in military aid from America gave an opening to the Russians. Ukraine no longer has the same combat power as it did last summer when it launched a counter-offensive against Russia. Russian forces are in a stronger position. They have intensified their attacks with an aim to secure more gains on the battlefield. So, Ukraine's counterattacks could make them weaker, but it's a risky gamble. Already, the Russian president is issuing fresh threats.
The representatives of countries that are NATO members, particularly in Europe, particularly in small countries, should be aware of what they are playing with. They should remember that these are primarily countries with small territory and dense population. And this factor they should take into account before they speak about strikes deep into the Russian territory.
Next month, Switzerland is hosting a peace summit for Ukraine. But with both Ukraine and Russia facing off on the battlefield, the war in Ukraine is only heading one way, and that's escalation.
Now let's turn to South Africa. The country is holding elections today, the most competitive election in 30 years. As we speak, the last few votes are being cast. All day, millions of people lined up to cast their ballots. Almost 28 million people were registered to vote, and they came out to decide the future of the country. The final results will be out in a few days from now, likely by this weekend. But we'll get an idea before that. Partial results will start trickling in later tonight. Everyone in South Africa will be watching with bated breath to see one thing. Will the ruling party, the ANC, still be in charge?
This is the day when South Africa decides on the future of our country, who should lead the government of South Africa, and I have no doubt whatsoever in my heart of hearts that the people will once again invest confidence in the African National Congress to continue to lead this country.
President Cyril Ramaphosa certainly thinks so. He's trying to secure a second and final term in office, and he's projecting an air of confidence, but it may not be that simple. The ANC, the African National Congress, has been in charge since 1994, since the end of apartheid, the institutionalized racism that had plagued the country for generations. Apartheid ended thanks to the efforts of the ANC and their leader, Nelson Mandela. As a reward, the party has won every election since, because of the goodwill that their struggle earned them. But 30 years is a long time. The younger generation may not remember the old struggle. They're more concerned about today's problems, like shockingly high unemployment. It is the worst in the world in South Africa. 33% of South Africans are unemployed. That is 1 in every 3. It's worse when you look at youth unemployment. It's at 46%. So will young South Africans still vote for the ANC to reward the party for its struggle against apartheid, or will they punish the party for failing to provide them jobs?
I grew up loving the ANC because of how they fought for the freedom we have today. They fought and in 1994 we were able to vote when we couldn't before. That is why I voted for them all these years. But this year, I've changed because of the problems with the ruling party, and so I've since become a member of the MK party.
Unemployment is not the only issue. Crime is also skyrocketing. The rate of murder is at a 20-year high. Someone is killed every 20 minutes in South Africa. The dire situation has put a dent on the 3.4% of the vote. That is still higher than everyone else, but it's still a massive fall from grace. In the last election, the ANC won about 58% of the vote. If it wins just 43% this time, it means the party is losing a quarter of its voting base. And it would put the ANC in uncharted territory, because for the first time it would then have less than half of the vote. It would not be able to form a government on its own. Instead, the ANC will have to look for partners, which means any one of the major opposition parties could become kingmakers. The ANC's biggest rival is the Democratic Alliance, or DA, the party that has been coming second since they were formed in the year 2000. The DA is expected to come second this time as well, with about 19% of the vote. Not enough to topple the ANC, but enough to become a key coalition partner.
If we don't get to the 50% plus one mark, we will obviously look at the lie of the land, but I don't believe that keeping the same bad people who've got us into the situation, that have pushed 42% of our country into the unemployment queue, that have led to 30 million people living in poverty.
And some tough talk by the DA leader, but we'll see if their tune changes after the results come out. If not, they aren't the only ones that the ANC could partner with. There's also the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the party that is led by Julius Malema, a former ANC youth leader who was expelled in 2012 over disciplinary issues. So he went on to form his own party. Malema might be willing to let bygones be bygones, but his support won't come cheap. He will want important government portfolios. The third option is almost an impossibility. For President Cyril Ramaphosa at least, it seems impossible. It's the MK party, led by former President Jacob Zuma. Now, to put it mildly, Zuma and Ramaphosa do not see eye to eye. They've been rivals since the 90s. And Ramaphosa rose to power at Zuma's expense. So Zuma is not likely to prop up his greatest foe. But Zuma's MK party is currently polling at third place, so a desperate ANC might be willing to tie up with their former president. All that the party would have to do is throw Ramaphosa under the bus. All these parties are potential kingmakers if the election goes as opinion polls have predicted. But there are two other scenarios. If the ANC loses more votes than expected, then the kingmakers could decide to usurp the throne. An alliance of opposition parties may be able to oust the ANC, but it would be a coalition of fundamentally different parties. And that would likely lead to chaos. The last scenario is that the ANC does better than expected. It manages to hold on to power, either on its own or with the help of smaller parties, who won't be able to push the ANC around. If that happens, then Ramaphosa will have dodged a bullet. But he will understand that things need to change. The ANC will have to overhaul itself, bring in jobs, stamp out crime, end corruption and inefficiency. That's the only way for the party to survive. If not, this election will mark the beginning of the end of the ANC. And we've been tracking this election very closely. For more on this, stay tuned to First Post for our continuing coverage with my colleague Alison Lagrange.
South Africa's May 29th elections. Millions are voting today to choose the next National Assembly.
There was a start of change in the country.
Now, I have just voted at this polling booth right here in Durban.
Wars, elections, diplomacy. The world is busy with a lot right now. But trust North Korea to always mix things up. It has launched an attack on the South, but before you imagine missiles, let me stop you. This attack involves balloons. And not just any balloons, balloons full of feces. So is North Korea trying to go green? Or has their waste management system failed? And while this whole story may sound absurd, Kim Jong-un says there's a reason for this trashy attack. Our next report explains.
Look at the gunnery school in Portland Road.
In the annals of history, wars have been fought in multiple ways, with weapons, with resources, with ideology. But North Korea is fighting a conflict in a new way, with feces. Yes, you heard that right. It's a trash war and South Korea is bearing the brunt of it. On Wednesday morning, Seoul had a warning for its residents. They talked about an air raid from the north. Now, when you hear that, you would expect missiles or rockets. But what they saw were balloons, over 260 of them. They were found in 8 provinces of South Korea. And once opened, they were filled with trash, waste, feces, and more.
It was so creepy and scary. That balloon could have fallen down because North Korea designated a specific target. Everyone was so scared at that moment. I wondered what would have happened to us if they were not just rubbish, but virus or chemicals.
Now, the exchange of balloons is not new between the two Koreas. It was used in the Korean War, especially for propaganda. In 2016, North Korea launched balloons with material that attacked Seoul's leaders. In one launch, the balloons contained toilet paper and cigarette butts. South Korea, too, did not hold back. It responded by sending balloons that contained cash, banned K-pop music, media content, and choco pies, because the snack is also prohibited in the north. So what did the balloons that Pyongyang sent today carry? Well, most of it was rubbish, like plastic bottles, batteries, soil, shoe parts, and even pieces. South Korea asked its residents to not touch them and even report any suspicious objects.
I heard a loud sound of something huge falling down. Then something started flying around the road and police officers set up the police line right away. The investigation team came to the field and began the probe.
But what is really this trash removed from Pyongyang? The trigger was a balloon attack last month. A South Korean activist sent banned content across the border, like leaflets condemning Kim Jong-un, and it looks like the North had had enough. So they hit back. Pyongyang called it a tit-for-tat action. Imagine the work it would have taken. It's a feat that combines the precision of a military operation with the creativity of a middle school prank. Meanwhile, South Korea's military condemned the act, calling it a clear violation of international law. In many ways, this rubbish war is a fitting metaphor for the state of international relations today. Amid wars, climate change, and economic crisis, we find ourselves dealing with poop balloons. It's a reminder that sometimes the pettiness of politics can overshadow the pressing needs of humanity.
Now let's turn to Europe, to the country of Georgia, which is located in the Caucasus region and home to about 4 million people. But those people are angry and divided. They've been protesting for weeks. Thousands have taken to the streets to protest against a controversial law. It is dubbed the Foreign Agent Bill, or even the Russian law. Despite the public opposition, Georgia's ruling party has gone ahead with the bill. They passed it on the 14th of May, and yesterday they went a step further. Georgia's president was against the bill. She had vetoed it, but instead of respecting her decision, Georgia's parliament overruled her veto, which means the bill is back and it should come into force in the next 2 months. The people of Georgia were enraged again. Once again, they came out to protest in the thousands, and as you can imagine, the president was not happy either.
Are you angry today? Did today's events anger you? Let's get to work. The work ahead involves preparing for the real referendum. Use the energy you feel today to gather signatures. Bring those signatures to me and I will sign this referendum. Do we want a European future or do we want Russian slavery? This decision cannot be made by 84 people. We will decide together.
The 84 people she mentions are members of the ruling party. It's called the Georgian Dream, the party. But the next few months may become a nightmare for this regime because of their foreign agents bill. So what is this law and why are so many people against it? Well, the law seeks to shine a light on foreign funding, specifically your NGOs and media outlets. If these groups get 20% or more of their funding from abroad, they will have to follow new rules. The ruling party says the rules are about transparency. The NGOs will have to give detailed reports of their financing, where the money is coming from and who it's going to. They will also face more inspections. Now all this seems normal enough, as though it's about financial transparency. But you see, NGOs already did this, in Georgia at least. They already reported all of this to Georgia's tax agencies, and the information was in the public domain. Now, under the new Foreign Agents Bill, it's not the tax authorities who will get this information, it is the Justice Ministry of the country. Under the new law, NGOs will have to register themselves at the Justice Ministry as organizations serving the interests of a foreign power. That is the official designation, which is why this law is called the Foreign Agents Bill. So basically, Georgia's government wants NGOs to call themselves foreign agents and give all their details. What happens to NGOs who do not do all of this? Well, they will face fines worth almost $10,000. Now, on the one hand, it is important to know where the money is coming from, to see what foreign nations are spending their money on. But that information was already available. The new law is different. It adds another layer of checks and gives the information directly to the government instead of just the tax authorities. The fear is that the government will misuse this information. That is what the critics are saying. And the foreign agent tag, it will be misused to discredit these media outlets and agencies that work against the ruling party. So the people of Georgia are protesting against the foreign agent law. Not necessarily because they want to protect foreign-funded NGOs, but also because the law impacts a long-held dream.
We always had questions about their intentions, but now it's so clear. So all masks are off. We know where they take our country. It's not about the law anymore. It's about their decision to distance Georgia from the West, from the EU, from the NATO, and take Georgia to the direction of Russia and make Georgia the ally of Russia.
About 80% of Georgia's population wants to join the EU. The country was even granted EU candidate status last December. But with this foreign agent law, Georgians can feel their European dream slipping away. They feel that the EU and the West will not accept them with a law like this, and that is the reason for their anger essentially. The protests are unlikely to end soon, and Georgia will be going to polls this October. Their president has called for a united front, a coalition to take on the ruling Georgian Dream Party. And now let's talk about cyclones. They are not uncommon in the Bay of Bengal. Since 1965, the Bangladesh coastline has seen 12 major cyclones. They have killed at least 500,000 people, but on Sunday the country was taken by shock. Cyclone Rimal made landfall. It caused widespread destruction. 65 people were killed, but what Bangladesh did not understand is the duration of the storm. This cyclone went on for 36 hours. It was one of the longest cyclones the country has seen. The reason? Climate change. It is turbocharging storms in the region. But there's still a silver lining here. Our next report tells you about it.
This is the Sundarbans, straddling Bangladesh and India. It is the largest mangrove forest in the world, a dynamic ecosystem and home to the Bengal tiger. On Sunday evening, Cyclone Rimal made landfall close to the Sundarbans. For 3 days, the forest was underwater, and it has worried many. Bangladesh is no stranger to cyclones, but this was one of the longest in the country's history. Why? Because of climate change. Cyclone Rimal was one of the quickest forming and long-lasting cyclones in the region. It brought with it strong gales and crashing waves. 65 people were killed. Thousands of homes destroyed, seawalls smashed, cities flooded, and millions left without power across India and Bangladesh.
I'm 90 years old. In my lifetime, I've never seen a cyclone or floods lasting 3 to 4 days. Storm usually lasts for 1 day and sunny weather will come the next day. I've never seen anything like this cyclone in my lifetime before.
This cyclone is more dangerous than the previous ones. There was rain and the wind speed was 120 to 130 kilometers per hour. We struggled to even go to the shelter center with my family. I've never seen something like this cyclone before.
Cyclones have killed millions in Bangladesh, but climate change is turbocharging them. Earlier there was one superstorm a year, now there are close to 3. Cyclone Remal started as a low-pressure formation in the Bay of Bengal. Within 3 days, it turned into a severe cyclone. Usually this process takes over a week, plus it lasted longer. Cyclone Remal continued for 36 hours. Compare that to the disastrous Cyclone Ayla in 2009, that lasted for around 34 hours. All of this means more damage and destruction.
The sides of the river are broken and water entered through this side of the village. Many people are marooned. The loss is immense. Most of my new stock of clothing is either damaged or blown away by the storm, and the corrugated sheet made the roof toppled from this side to the other.
So, will storms only get worse in the future? Well, that is the prediction. Climate change is fueling more intense storms. But there is a silver lining here. It's better forecasting. With modern technology, it is easier to predict these events. That, coupled with efficient evacuation, means death tolls have dramatically reduced. Bangladesh and India both evacuated around 1 million people. Of course, there were deaths, but the number was negligible compared to the previous cyclones. The Sundarbans also helped in mitigating the cyclone's ferocity. The mangrove forest took the brunt, shielding the region from its full force. But the question is, for how much longer? How long can the Sundarbans protect the region? If you believe scientists, the answer is not encouraging. Climate change is affecting this mangrove forest too, and if it is not saved, it won't be long before the region loses its protective barrier.
Our last story tonight comes from Djibouti, a tiny country in East Africa. It is home to just over 1 million people, and they are at war with mosquitoes. We are witnessing an unprecedented surge in malaria cases, and malaria, as you would know, can be a deadly disease. It kills at least 600,000 people every year the world over, and it is spread by mosquitoes. Now, Djibouti has been grappling with this disease for decades. In 2012, it was on the verge of eliminating malaria. At least that was the hope. But cut to today, and the cases have only skyrocketed. More than 70,000 cases were recorded in 2020. That's roughly 1 in 15 people. It's a dramatic rise, and Djibouti has tried to fight it. But this nation is up against a mosquito superspecies. These insects thrive in urban areas. They bite both during the day and night. They have outsmarted most methods of control. They are resistant to chemical insecticides. Fighting them has been a costly and complicated endeavor, yet Djibouti has been on the losing end of this war. So now they are bringing out the big guns, or shall I say, tiny, buzzing guns. I'm talking about mosquitoes. Djibouti is using mosquitoes to fight mosquitoes. But here's the twist. They're using bioengineered mosquitoes. In other words, genetically modified mosquitoes. They come with a self-limiting gene. Let me explain how this works. Only female mosquitoes bite. They cause malaria. They transmit malaria and other viral diseases. So Djibouti has taken male mosquitoes and tweaked their genes. Recently, tens of thousands of these mosquitoes were released into the wild, where they will mate with females and introduce a gene in female offspring. A gene that will not let them survive into adulthood.
Muslims are in the world.
It would reduce the population of mosquitoes. In short, Djibouti has released mosquitoes that are genetically engineered to kill their own children. Now this is a first in East Africa, and only the second case in the continent. Burkina Faso used this technique in 2019. Now, other African nations like Uganda are also keen, and it makes sense for them. Africa bears the brunt of the global malaria burden. It accounts for 96% of malaria deaths worldwide. These countries want to fight the disease. They want a solution that is permanent, that does not require continuous investment. And genetic modification promises just that. Plus, it proposes equality. Once the mosquitoes are released, they can benefit everyone equally, regardless of income levels, which is not the case with bed nets or vaccines or insecticides. And African nations are not the only ones exploring such solutions. Similar technology has been used in Brazil, the Cayman Islands, Panama, and India. Since 2019, more than 1 billion such mosquitoes have been released the world over. But here's the catch. Genetic modification is controversial, most governments are hesitant, and people are scared.
You're going to risk our community. You're going to ask the people in our community to be sacrificial lambs. Really, that's the whole point of the experiment, is to take a for-profit company and give them a means to run a test that, hey, they make money on technically.
This technology could be life-saving, but its risks are still unknown. The technique is in its early stages. There are few laws to regulate it. Mosquitoes can cross boundaries. Who will stop them at national borders? What if mosquitoes are released inadvertently? What if modification changes their behavior? What if they build resistance to lethal genes? What if someone uses this technology to create bioweapons? Who controls all of this? More importantly, even if this entire process can be regulated, how should it happen? What level of oversight is required? It could be necessary, but it could also stifle innovation. So how much is too much, and how safe is safe enough? Lots of questions. And history is filled with stories of pest control gone wrong. You can fantasize about every possible fate in a laboratory. You can hope that meddling in genetic code will save lives. But what about the catastrophic consequences that no one anticipates? Essentially, this is a Jurassic Park question, and we all know how that turned out. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Sudan, the Indian army beats Chinese troops in a tug of war. In Iceland, a volcano erupts again, spewing smoke and lava. And a giant crocodile tries to climb over a railing, causing panic in India's Uttar Pradesh. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reached the summit of the Mount Everest. They were the first people to achieve this feat. They took around 7 weeks to reach the top. Before this, many believed it was impossible to climb the world's highest mountain. But since then, at least 6,700 people have climbed Mount Everest. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Tapos na siya, no? Okay, tapos na sa kanya. Sa atin naman, balitang hangin naman tayo mga sukay, mga kababayan. Kanina pumakaan tayong balitang hangin, no? Dapat mauna yon. Okay, so okay lang. At bago tayo mag-close, magbalitang hangin muna tayo. Ayan.
Male voice, Molly voice, monster voice, female voice.
Okay. Hindi pa ba 100% sa kondisyon ng katawan ko, no? Okay, sorry. Okay lang. Sige. Balitang hangin na.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Narito ang weather update sa araw ng Huwebes, May 30, 2024. Kung makikita po natin, southwest monsoon or hanging habagat ang nakakaapekto dito sa western section ng Luzon. Meron din tayong low pressure area dito sa labas ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility at ito'y wala namang direktang epekto dito sa ating bansa. Pero dahil dito sa low pressure area at yung paglayo nitong bagyong si Ahon, bahagyang humina itong southwest monsoon or yung hangin na bagat, kaya asahan natin makakaranas ng maulap na papawirin na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan dito sa may Ilocos region. Samantala kung makikita natin sa satellite imagery natin, may mga kaulapan tayo dito sa may extreme northern Luzon. Dulot naman ito ng frontal system. Asahan natin dito sa may Batanes at Babuyan Islands, makakaranas sila ng maulap na papawirin na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan din. For Metro Manila naman at nalalabing bahagi ng ating bansa, maaliwalas pero mainit at maalinsangan sa tanghali at hapon na may mga chance ng mga localized thunderstorm pagdating sa hapon at sa gabi. Dako naman tayo sa magiging panahon natin bukas dito sa Luzon. Kung makikita po natin sa extreme northern Luzon, patuloy po sila maaapektuhan nitong frontal system. Kaya makakaranas pa rin po sila ng maulap na papawirin na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan. Para naman sa nalalabing bahagi ng Luzon, kung makikita po natin, magiging maaliwalas na ang panahon. For Metro Manila, agwat ng temperatura ay 26 to 34 degrees Celsius, Lawag 25 to 33 degrees Celsius, Baguio 17 to 24 degrees Celsius. Dito sa Mitugigaraw, 25 to 36 degrees Celsius, Tagaytay 21 to 31 degrees Celsius, at Legazpi 26 to 34 degrees Celsius. Para naman dito sa may Palawan, Visayas at Mindanao, patuloy ang maaliwalas na panahon. Agwat ng temperatura for Calayan Islands at Puerto Princesa, 26 to 32 degrees Celsius, Iloilo, 26 to 33, Tacloban 26 to 32 degrees Celsius. For Cebu, 27 to 34 degrees Celsius, Zamboanga 26 to 33 degrees Celsius, Cagayan de Oro 26 to 32 degrees Celsius. Dito naman sa Davao, asahan natin ng 25 to 33 degrees Celsius. Wala naman tayong nakataas na anumang gale warning sa anumang seaboards ng ating bansa. Dako naman tayo sa magiging panahon natin sa susunod na 3 araw sa mga piling syudad natin. Kung makikita po natin, by weekend, magiging maaliwalas po ang ating panahon kasama na rin dito sa May Monday. Metro Manila, agwat ng temperatura 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, Baguio City 17 to 24 degrees Celsius, Legazpi 26 to 34 degrees Celsius. Gayon din dito sa may Visayas, asahan natin generally fair weather pa rin, dost.gov.ph. At yan po muna ang latest dito sa Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. Chanel Dominguez po at magandang hapon.
Okay, wala na? Wala nang balita pala, no? Ito na. Ito na po.
Male voice, lolly voice, monster voice, female voice.
Okay, sa kanila lang tayo mag-discuss politics. Okay, magpagaling muna ako, no? Okay, para makabawi tayo. Okay, shout out lang sa lahat ng nakikinig. Okay, dyan pa rin ng PDP Laban. Okay, okay, nangunguna po sa mga survey, no? PDP Laban. Lalo na po itong nila Inday Sara, no? Nila Bongo, nila Bato, Tolentino, Tatay Digong, at saka itong si Robin Padilla, no? Hindi maghiwalay-hiwalay po magkabigkis-bigkis itong team ito para sa 2025, no? Ayan. Sa kabila, magantay tayo. Wala pang mga linyada, no? Puro balitaktakan po sa kabila. Lalo na po sa administration, no? Ayan. Okay, yung mga balita bukas na lang, no? Okay, dito sa programa natin. Okay, sandali lang, parinig natin dito, no? Okay, inulit ko, andyan po Gcash natin, at saka itong Paymaya, at saka itong PayPal accounts, ay bahala na kayo mga sukido. Importante, okay, bago mag-election, ay magandang gamit natin mga sukido. Ayan. Palagay ko itong system ay okay pa. Yung mga supporting system, yung mga digital, kasi mga digital na kasi ngayon, no? Yun ang dapat mabago rito. Kasi itong chronological pa nung unang panahon po, no? Okay, nagumpisa ang studio ito ay umpisa rin ng equipment, no? Pwede pa man. Okay, pero yun ang yung mga kwan pa. Yung metal pa mga gamit, no? Hindi na katulad ngayon puro ay pero kamahal, no? Mga 300,000 po ang isang unit, no? Grabe, 300,000. Okay, halagang kotse na, isang second hand kotse. Yung mga latest ngayon, hindi po biro gamit sa studio, no? Ayan. Okay, paano? Tapos na. Okay, saka tayo balitaktakan po sa politika mga sukido. Ayan. Okay, hanggang dito muna sa programa po ng Consolidated News natin sa gabing ito. Gabi ng Huwebes. Okay, sa platform ng ADLSN TV News Online Corporation. Okay, streaming online, YouTube. Okay, diyan po matagpuan nyo, no? Okay, paki-share, paki-click. Ayan. Shout out na lang po sa lahat, no? Walang personalan dito. Wala. Okay. Yan naman, dumating naman ng okay, masakit na ulo. Ayan. Okay, i-close na natin. Okay, mga suki-suki natin, no? Ayan. Mag-close na tayo.
Awesome! Awesome! Awesome!
Okay, wala bang bapa, no? Walang magpalawas ng bapa. Baka ayaw nila sa studio natin. Okay. Sige. Okay, naalala ko kasing election ng kay PBBM, no? Imagine ang okay, ang boss ko pinaturbanan po mga suki mga kababayan, no? Tapos hinahak pang kwan ko, hinahak pa yung system ko. Grabe. Election yun. Yung election ba kay PBBM at saka si Lenny? Okay. Sira po sa araw ng election ng system ko mga suki, no? Ganun po katindi. Okay. Yung kinakampihan ko ay tinuturbanan po ng mga palagay ito, mga IT nila, no? Yung kalaban ba kasi magbangga po sa mga idea. Okay, sa prinsipyo. Ayan. Kagaling ng IT nila, sinira po yung system, no? Okay. Wala, paralyze ako. Yung election na yan. Hanggang araw ng election, wala akong sirang system ko. Pero alam ko na mga grupo yan. Kaya alam ko na po yung kung sino po tumira.